Hi, everyone. I'm Maura Black. I'm a managing attorney here at Chisholm and Kilpatrick. I'm here today with Robert Chisholm, a founding partner here. And we want to talk about what the process is like when we are prosecuting a claim before the VA. We want to specifically talk about what that process entails and sort of the timeframes and expectations that come along with how we work cases and how we move cases through the system based on the years of experience that we have dealing with veterans' claims at the VA. So, one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about this is because there's a notion that we have seen repeatedly over the years, but more so recently, um, online and forums online and things like that, that lawyers will delay a case at the VA in order to rack up a fee or to achieve more money at the end. So, the idea that some folks have is that lawyers benefit from sitting on a case or for waiting for a long time to appeal a decision. And we wanted to make sure that we explained our process and specifically address that misperception. So, Robert, can we start by, could you explain when we take a case, when we start our work on a case, what are the things that we need to do at the outset to get the ball rolling at the VA and to start the work that we need to do to come up with a case strategy and an action plan for a client?
Thank you, Maura. So, one of the first things we do is we have the client sign a power of attorney. That power of attorney then enables us to get access to the veteran's file. And we submit that to the VA. We upload it digitally. In the old days, we had to send it in by mail, wait till the VA got it, and then processed it. But now it happens very quickly. Once the VA gets that form, they will then give CCK access to the veteran's file. And this is very important. I can't emphasize how important this online access is because it allows us then to download the file right into our system. And so, what used to take upwards of 8 to 12 months, say 5 or 6 years ago, now happens within 2 to 3 weeks. And so, once we get that file, the first thing we do is look at it. And most times, and by most times, I mean 90% of the times, this is probably the first time someone has gone through the entire veteran's file, the service records, the medical records, any statements in there, to see what evidence there was that formed the decision of the VA. And so once we've done that analysis and read through the entire file, we come up with an action plan. We might need to get a witness statement. We might need to get a medical opinion. We might need to get what's called a vocational opinion. We might need to get other witness statements. All of those things are possible, and we will develop a plan. And once we've developed a plan, we'll go out and gather that evidence, bring it together. Once that evidence is brought together, we make a written argument for the appeal, and we submit the appeal.
And during this process, Robert, if I can jump in, sometimes veterans come to us with a decision that they already have from the VA. And so, in that sense, the time to appeal is already ticking. So, as we undertake this file review and this strategy plan, and as we think about what kind of development would be best for our client to submit to the VA on their behalf, how are we also managing the other deadlines in their case?
Well, sometimes we may have to file an appeal without the evidence. But most times we want to file a completed appeal with all the evidence so that it moves as quickly as possible. But if the deadline is imminent, you always have to preserve the deadline by filing the appeal.
Great. So we always prioritize the deadlines, as Robert said, that need to be met. And sometimes the appeal will take a different form if we are in the midst of that file review that Robert mentioned, which is truly a page by page review of sometimes thousands pages long files that have accumulated over the course of a veteran's service and their process, whatever it is, at the VA. What about after that development is completed? Does that mean that our work is done, or what future steps will we need to take even after we've secured those things like statements and expert reports and even done the argument in an appeal?
So there's a couple of things we do once the appeal's been submitted. First of all, we make sure that the appeal's been properly uploaded by the VA and noted in the online record system. And then once that's done, we check periodically to make sure that the appeal is moving forward in the proper way. And if there's a possibility for advancement on the docket, which is a technical term, But there are certain reasons where either at the regional office or at the Board of Veterans Appeals that a case can be expedited. We will move to expedite that case, either at the board or the regional office. Generally speaking, it's easier to do that at the board than the regional office. But based on age, a serious illness, or financial hardship. Those are generally speaking the reasons to advance a case on the docket. We always look for those opportunities to move a case along. And then the other thing that sometimes happens, unfortunately, more is cases are delayed, things aren't docketed correctly, the VA doesn't respond. And in those cases, what we do is we prompt the VA, and if they do not respond, we have filed writs of mandamus in the Court of Veterans Appeals to force the agency to move the case along. Um, that doesn't happen as much anymore because they've gotten better at it. But in those cases, we moved it. In those situations, we move the case along.
Exactly. So our work is certainly not complete after we have filed what we think is a winning appeal with all of the evidence that we think that VA needs. Of course, VA might deny the appeal or disagree with our arguments. Maybe VA will get their own evidence. Sometimes VA will obtain examinations or medical experts of their own to examine a particular issue. And then we kind of are in a situation where we have our expert, they have theirs. And so there's a significant amount of work that needs to be done on our end too, rebutting the contentions in VA's exam, perhaps obtaining an addendum. So I think, Robert, as you made clear, our work is certainly not done after something is in VA's hands. We may have to submit multiple appeals or maybe even do a really robust form of outreach if VA is dragging their feet significantly and not making a decision. Um, Maybe one or two final questions. As someone who's been practicing in this area for decades now, how do you feel about the contention that we have seen and that the statements that we've seen from folks before that we have some incentive to delay on our end and to not file something on the veteran's behalf until the very end of the appeal window? How do you respond to that?
We've never done that here at CCK. There's a lot of bad actors in the system now. And by bad actors, I mean unaccredited claims consultants who are sort of feeding this narrative. And the other thing that's important to point out is as an accredited attorney licensed to practice in courts generally and before the VA specifically, we have certain ethical obligations. And one of those ethical obligations is to diligently pursue the appeal. And we have always abided by that. We move as quickly as we can. Unfortunately, the delay happens on the VA end, not on our end.
Mhm.
And I mean that both at the VBA, the Veterans Benefit Administration, and at the Board of Veterans Appeals. We move the case along as quickly as possible. We don't delay.
Do you have any closing thoughts on this idea of delay and how it affects our work and the perception of our work on behalf of our clients?
You know, Maura, we've been doing this for over 25 years. We've successfully represented thousands of veterans before the VA and also before the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. And in all these years, we try to move the cases along as quickly and as efficiently as we can. And we pride ourselves on doing a good job. And that's why clients continue to come to us. We do not delay. And we have an ethical obligation to not delay. And we have always abided by that.
Well said. Thank you, Robert, for your time today, and thank you all for tuning in. We hope to see you next time.